What's up, you guys? Episode 10, remote one. Nick's on the road in Edmonton doing his thing with the Stanley Cup Finals. We got into a lot on this one. We talked about prospects Zeev and Cayden Lindstrom pulling up the shop last week. We got into another color bubble of the week. We talked about the Skins Customizer, our bubble hockey tournament debuting on July 13th, and a whole lot more. So come through, check it out. Episode 10, live now.
Alrighty, welcome back to another episode of the DISHIN podcast. This is the first time we're doing this remotely, so bear with us. Maddie, how you feeling? You're in Buffalo right now. How we doing over there?
Miss you, bro. Miss you.
Miss you,
Wish
boys,
we were
too.
together, but this is how it's got to be sometimes, right?
I know, man. We were trying to stay consistent with these two. So again, we're trying to troubleshoot and just get this remote thing kind of locked in for a little bit and just see how it goes. So this is the first one, and again, appreciate all you guys tuning in too. The clips have been going crazy recently.
Yeah.
But yeah, how's everything been at home, man? I feel like it's been a week, but I haven't, it feels like for me a month.
Yeah, it's been great here, man. It's been great. It's holding it down while you're out on the road doing your thing. I'm sure we'll get into that in a little bit, but yeah, the clips have been bumping. So we've got a lot of new followers. I think new people that are checking out the page, and a couple clips have gone pretty viral, I'd say. So yeah, it's been awesome. It's been cool to see the growth of the page. I know we just hit 1,000 followers on IG, so it's been steady growth from here on out. Excited for what the future is going to bring too.
Yeah, and before we even kind of get into it, we've got an event coming up. Do you want to touch a little bit on that, or talk a little bit about that real quick before we get into things?
Yeah, we've spoke on this a little bit, but July 13th, Saturday, July 13th, that's about a month away from now, probably a little less than a month by the time that this comes out. We're hosting a bubble hockey tournament, downtown Buffalo, 166 Chandler Street. It'll be at the Rift City building, presented by Smoldered Society. It's the DISHIN Super Chexx Bubble Hockey Tournament. So yeah, today's Wednesday, June 12th. By the time this goes out, I'm sure all the tickets and everything will be available. So we're capping it at, I want to say 50 participants for the total event. We'll play that by ear as tickets become available. So tickets are going to fly. Everything's going to go pretty quick. So if you want to be a part of the event, make sure you jump on it. But again, July 13th, the DISHIN Bubble Hockey Tournament, going to be in Buffalo. Going to be an awesome event. We have some player appearances, a lot of local and national brands involved. And this wouldn't happen without support and love from Super Chexx, but also Smoldered Society too. So it's been a great three-way partnership between the three of our brands, and it's been a lot of work up to this point. I know Derek's done a lot of work behind the scenes, so shout out to him and everybody involved helping to get to this point. Excited for it to come together because it's going to be a really great event.
Yeah, man, I'm excited. That's coming up super quick too. I feel like I've been on so many email threads and things like that, just seeing it from afar, it all come together. So I'm super stoked. And there's also some going to be more exciting things going on at that event. But that news should be out, I think, after this episode goes out. So we'll talk more about that on the next episode. But so I feel like I've been gone for the past week. I feel like I've missed a lot of shit that went on at the shop. You guys had some prospects pull up. I feel like we have, anytime the combine's in town, I feel like we always get some prospects that pull up to the shop. Now that we've been in that location for 2 years now. So I saw some boys came up. What was that like? Can you talk to me a little bit about that?
Yeah, for sure. So I mean, yeah. First of all, it's dope having the combine here. Like every year, that's a really sick event. Like to have all these prospects, these future NHL stars come through our backyard is pretty crazy, and something that I kind of always forget about each year. So it kind of like sneaks up on me. And for me personally, like I'm not the prospect guy. Jared's a prospect guy, right? So like, we can kind of get into the story a little bit about how all this came together. But as soon as it was kind of unraveling, I gave Jared a quick call right away, and he luckily he's my neighbor, so he like jumped over across the street real quick. But yeah, it was when was that? Last week. I saw the NHL post something that was like familiar faces, something like get used to these stars in the NHL, and I saw they posted like 6 or 7 guys. So I reached out to 1 or 2 of them and just shot a DM. I was like, "Yo, hey, if you guys are in town still, want to come through the shop, would love to have you give a little tour and say what up to the boys." So his name was Zeev. I'm gonna slaughter his last name, but Buium. How do you say his last name? Buium. Shout out to Derek. Zeev Buium. Dude, he hit me back right away. He's like, "Dude, I'm familiar with the brand. Love what you guys do." He's like, "I'm going to slide through in a few minutes with Cayden," which ended up being Cayden Lindstrom. So yeah, I was at the post office at the time. I'm like, word, I'll be home in like 10 minutes. And yeah, boys came through, chopped it up, hung out in the shop for a little bit. And it was dope to just kind of give them a tour of everything that we do. Again, these guys are, Zeev is from San Diego, Cayden's from up in British Columbia. So for these guys to come to Buffalo, it's very far away from home for them. I'm sure they've been away from home for most of their life, but they don't know much about Buffalo. So for us to kind of give them a tour of our shop and kind of what the city's like is a really cool experience for me and for our brand. I think a unique perspective too. So yeah, as soon as Zeev hit me up, I called Jared. I was like, yo, these two kids want to come through. And he's like, no shit. Well, like they're projected to go like top 5, top 10. So Jared came through right away and chopped it up with the boys. Like I said, gave him a whole tour of everything and played some bubble hockey on the back. We got smoked.
Yeah.
First time I ever played doubles and on the bubble hockey, our own machine, and we got waxed. So, but yeah, man, it was a good time. Shout out to those boys for coming through, and I know you had a little bit of a run on with them in Florida too, right?
Yeah. So it was funny because I remember you texted me and you said some of these guys were coming to the shop, and then I saw the post go out on our Instagram page, and like I feel like I'm just on like a lost island right now again, being out of town. But yeah, I remember seeing the post go out, and I'm like, I saw it go out. You guys posted it was a pic of you and Jared and the boys, and I'm walking, I think maybe to breakfast or something at my hotel, and these kids are sitting over by the pool, like they must have just gotten in. I'm like, why do these kids look so familiar? And I like pull up the post. I'm like, oh shit, these boys were at the shop. So I remember I texted you and I was like, yo, I think these kids are staying at my hotel. So which they ended up they were staying at the hotel. So I think it was after one of the games. They were in town for game 2. So they were on the same shuttle bus as I was heading back. And I remember you said a few times, you're like, yo, like, just say what up to them. And I'm like, I don't want to do that. Like I just don't want to be like that dude. And ended up seeing them. They were like the first seat when I walked on my shuttle bus. So I just said, what's up? I said, hey, I saw you guys, went to the DISHIN shop and saw Matt and Jared.
I didn't even know this. You talked to him.
Well, yeah. I didn't even tell you about this. Yeah. So I ended up saying what up to them, and they were so funny. The one kid's like, dude, the shop was so sick, man. The brand's dope, man. So it was cool. It was cool. Those guys were super personable guys, and just seemed very grateful to be where they're at. And it's funny, it's like they're on their little tour here. They had the combine in Buffalo, and then they come to game 2 in Florida, and then they get to go to the draft in Vegas. I don't know if those guys are going to be in Edmonton, but cool experience for those guys, I'm sure. I mean, 17, 18-year-olds, 19, however old they are, and they get to do these things and basically go on this like little tour, which is pretty cool. I'm sure it's they've spent some time away from the rink, which is probably much needed for these guys. So but yeah, man, they're really cool kids, man. Shout out to them for coming to the shop, and I'm sure it was fun to show them around and show them things that we've been working on. I saw a picture of one of the guys wearing colored bubbles or tested it out. So that was pretty cool. What was that like? What was the feedback from those guys?
These kids are young, man. So it's like they see that everything that we're doing, they think it's dope. And yeah, like it's like no hands off. Like it's like touching everything in the shop, like everything on the print table, just like kind of looking around and just like to see our brand like that through a new perspective for those guys, I think is really cool. Cause like from the street, you see the shop, right? But like when you walk into the shop and then you kind of walk back and behind what we do, like these 5 or 6 rooms, you can kind of get a feel for like how the brand comes together and how it lives and breathes. So yeah, we had the bubble in there, showed him the colored bubbles. Like Cayden picked that up right away and he threw that on and he was like, damn, this is crazy. He's a true guy, and we had those true SkateSkins in there that we did last year for IIHF. So he saw those. He actually had a pair of those on his skates still, he said. So that was pretty sick. And Zeev's I think Zeev wears Bowers, and he went to DU, so he has like those custom red skates, which are pretty sick. But yeah, dude, it's always cool, especially guys like that of their magnitude, and like you said, projected to go like. If they're going top 5, that's crazy, even if they're not. But just like to be at that level of the sport and be that personable and down to earth and just be like, hey, yeah, I'll come through and just like hang out for a couple hours and just hang out and kind of get a feel for what you guys do. I think that's really dope, especially in a city where you're not really familiar, you don't really know, you're not really comfortable with your surroundings. So I think that's sick. And when they were here too, they were like, yeah, we were gonna have Mac come through. They were like, we're gonna have Celebrini come through, but he had to bounce. He was with San Jose the next day, so that would have been sick to have him come. But no, yeah, I was watching that game, the Florida game, and they showed like a little draft highlight, and then they showed Cayden and Mac and Zeev like in the stands too, just like kind of watching the game. So pretty sick, full circle moment for me, just to kind of have him in the shop, and then the next day like see him on the broadcast at the game. Pretty cool. So yeah, again, like it's sick to have the combine here. We've had guys come through, roast through the shop like the past few years. So Will Whitelaw and Martin Miziak came through last year, drafted to Columbus and Chicago. So who knows who we'll have next year? I don't even know who some of the top prospects are. We'll have to rely on Jared a little bit for that.
Yeah, and you know me too. I'm so out of touch when it comes to the prospects thing, right? But I wanted to ask you too, like, when these guys come to the shop, like, what's always your biggest takeaway of what these guys want to see in the game of hockey? Like, what they want, like, obviously we've got the SkateSkins brand, we've got the color bubbles that just launched now. So, you know, what are some things that you're kind of seeing from these guys that, you know, maybe they want, like, what are you taking away from these guys that maybe they want to see into the game and infuse in the game?
That's a good question, because I think each guy like has their own unique personality, unique spin of something that they want to see within hockey. Zeev said that whatever shoes they have that they warm up in right now just absolutely suck, and I don't know what they wear or whatnot, but he was like, dude, you guys should make sneakers. And I'm like, yeah, I'm like, word, maybe we'll make some sneakers then. So that was like one piece of feedback he had. Obviously, like, everybody's seen the Jordan skates, so that's like cool. Cayden really liked those, is checking them all out. And then I don't know. I think guys just like are interested in what we do. I think it's hard to predict like what we're gonna do next, or what the future for the DISHIN brand or any brand that we launch is. So I think the guys just like to see shit that's like new in the shop, like seeing the chrome bubble, or seeing that we produce the skate skins for the True project, or just like any random thing. Like you walk in the bag and then just we have like a custom bubble hockey machine. So in the most humble way possible, I think they were just completely blown away by like what we do, and to see everything behind the scenes. So each guy is different, and those guys, like, great personalities. They were like super honest and open about, you know, some of their experiences so far. We talked a little bit about, like, you know, how many teams they met with and some of the questions they were asking. I will say, I think these kids that are being drafted and are in these positions are more focused than ever before, especially my perspective of seeing Zeev and Cayden, just the small conversations that I had with them, is that, you know, these kids are in the position that they are in because they put the work in up until this point, and they are true professionals already. So for me to be able to witness that firsthand is really cool, and I know these kids are going to be successful. And it's, I think, for us to be able to look back at someday and be like, wow, when these kids were here, they were 17, 18 years old, and to walk through the shop and not know much about our brand, but to get to know us was really dope. And that's what I'm most excited about, because like when I saw the NHL first post those combine picks, you know, you kind of look back and it's like, damn, what are these kids gonna be like to the history of the NHL in a few years from now? And, you know, it's always funny, like this past week when the NHL is posting previous combine photos, and you're seeing guys like McDavid and you know, different stars across the league that look so young, and we're in the same type of situation and shoes that these guys were in when they were walking through this past week. So it's really cool.
Yeah, it's funny too. Just, you know, like I saw some pictures floating around the internet of McDavid on his combine day, and then McDavid in the cup final. It's funny to see the difference. Like these guys, they grow the playoff beards and stuff like that. You know, it's funny, you know, to look back and see you know, what these guys look like and then what they look like during playoffs, and, you know, where their careers end up. But to kind of, I kind of want to have a little bit of a conversation about, you know, we talked a little bit about the questions that these prospects get asked, right? Those are some probably uncomfortable questions, or maybe not super comfortable. You know, maybe like they don't know their Instagram followers, like we were saying, or they may not know their Uber rating score. But we also face uncomfortable situations, right? And what we do. So I wanted to pick your brain a little bit, and maybe we can both share this. But, you know, was there like a was there like a challenging moment or an uncomfortable content production setting or situation that you may have been in where, you know, maybe we planned to shoot something outside and maybe it rained and we had to navigate, or maybe for you, you know, was there a supplier maybe you were working with during a big drop where it was like maybe it didn't work or they couldn't get you something on time for the drop? Was there anything, and like if there was a situation like that, how do you navigate through that and how have you overcome it to you know, just get through that and get it across the finish line?
Yeah, it's a great question. I think there's always going to be those types of challenges no matter what. It's like there's never going to be like a perfect storm that is going to be a perfect project from start to finish. You're always going to face obstacles and hurdles and have to overcome those. I think for us, the biggest thing is like how you can navigate those situations and get around problems quickly and efficiently and work within the team to make that happen. So, specific situations, I mean, recently, I feel like we're more prepared than ever before. It doesn't mean that things don't come up, but I think to our experience of where we are now, looking back on how far we've come, I think it's always about being detailed as you're foreseeing these projects and working with suppliers and manufacturing and making sure that you're dialed in all the way down to the smallest details. So that was huge. And we've talked about this a little bit before with the Blackhawks project of just like being over prepared when it comes to merchandise and content and release and rollout and everything from start to finish. So I'll think about some specific examples. Is there anything for you that comes to mind first? Because maybe I'll piggyback off that.
Yeah, I mean, like I remember 2 years ago, you know, we work pretty closely with Avalon Sports. We have over the years with Daver and his whole team over there. Shout out to them. They've been nothing but great to us. They've got a lot of phenomenal athletes across the NFL, including Jordan Poyer, Tyreek Hill, and guys like that. And I guess like one example or one situation I remember I was put in when Tyreek first launched his podcast. I remember, you know, Daver was telling me, you know, this is something we're going to have you help out on. And, you know, you might do some remote editing. Maybe you'll do some stuff on set where you come down to Florida and you come down for a production. But, you know, we'll kind of play it by ear. And, you know, for those people that work with athletes, like you know that you're kind of on their time, which is, you know, that's just the nature of the business. Right. But I remember I had gotten a call that we were going to go down. I'd gotten the call from Daver and he's like, yo, we're going to have you in Miami for 2 days. We're going to have Tua on the podcast and we're also going to have Rick Ross on the podcast. And I was like, oh shit. And he's like, yeah, you know, I'll send you a list of the camera gear that we got to have down here. You're going to work with one of our other guys on our team here who's going to help you out with the production. But, you know, this is what's going to happen. So I remember getting down there. Well, first I just remember like thinking, holy shit, like I'm going to have to basically direct Rick Ross to an extent. And I remember Daver also told me we're going to have, so for each guest, we're going to do a photo shoot. They're going to do a selfie video after the podcast. And then, obviously the podcast as well. So, there's a lot of moving parts. I think we only had maybe 2 hours with Rick Ross. I mean, him and Tyreek are neighbors, so it was easy for Rick to get over there to Tyreek's house where we were recording. But I remember that situation, you know, you have 2 hours to make sure that the set design looks great. You also have 2 hours to make sure you get the photos you need for the YouTube thumbnail, but also just for the general promotion. So I remember it was me and one other guy that basically was responsible for all of that when Rick Ross came through. And I just remember I had a camera for photos rolling or ready to go. And then I had to have a vlog camera ready to go just for any sort of interaction that Tyreek and, you know, his family were having with Rick Ross. But it was a time where I had done big productions like this, but not to an extent of working with Tyreek and Rick Ross. So I was just kind of thrown into it and, figure this out type thing. So I had to be super strategic with what I was doing and where I was shooting. I made sure I got to Tyreek's very early to make sure I scouted locations around his house, around the neighborhood to see where it would be a good spot to do the photos from. And then also to see what the setup is going to be like where we were recording the podcast, because I remember it was an awkward room setup where there were windows, and he had just moved into this house. So there was no blinds on the windows. So we had to kind of figure out the lighting situation and just a lot of troubleshooting. But it was, I'm not going to lie, it was a bit uncomfortable at first, but I think it's, for me personally, I work better under pressure in those situations. So, we made it work, and the podcast was great. The photo shoot went well, and not to keep going on a rant here, but the podcast ultimately, when that first released, I think it was a top 5 podcast on all of sports podcasts on Apple Podcasts. So super cool to be a part of. Shout out to Daver and Avalon and the whole team for having me involved in that. That is a project, and I will never forget, and that's something I always think about pretty often. I wouldn't really be doing a lot of the things I do in sports without that experience, and it really helped me grow as a content creator, producer, cinematographer, whatever it is in this field. And yeah, it's just super cool. And again, not to keep ranting about it, but I remember our last episode we did was a live show / podcast at Tyreek's store in one of the malls in Miami with Jake Paul. So that was a pretty cool experience too. And even working with Jake, these guys are on their own schedules. You have to really be able to adapt to that, and you have to also make sure be personable with them, but also keep it professional too. So that's just one situation that always comes to mind when I think of, at first, being uncomfortable, but kind of getting through that and navigating through it.
Yeah, well said. I think this is always funny to me because we've had, I'll just kind of lay the foundation for anybody that maybe is new to the show or doesn't know, but we've been working with pro athletes, I would say, for probably at least 4 or 5 years now. We've both had experiences in Miami working with pro athletes, but on different scales. When I first got into this career and what I'm doing now, I was working very closely with Nate Robinson and Carlos Boozer, and I got to know Nate extremely well through my buddy Polo, who used to live in Buffalo. And I have a very similar experience to you going to Miami, as did I when we were going to launch Nate's brand, Hold That, in Miami and Wynwood for the Hold That premiere release. So that's maybe a story for another day, but I always find it funny that we both had similar instances and experience in Miami on completely different projects. So for me too, I would say that was Nate was the first athlete I really got to know very well on a personal level, and helping him build his brand from start to finish is something that I'm thankful for, and really I think helped jumpstart me into what we're doing now. So I would echo the same type of thing you're saying, is moving to a city, you got to bring your laptop, you got to be prepared, you got to do all this stuff and make sure that you are dialed from start to finish. We went to Miami to do the drop, and we didn't even have a Shopify store launched yet. We went down there, and I had to do everything for Nate from start to finish. And I think you said it really well. You got to be able to adapt and adjust on the fly, and those challenges are going to come no matter what. So how you overcome those and how you work together with your team to help reach the end goal is ultimately the most important. So I always find that funny that we have experiences of being in Miami, you with being with Tyreek and me being with Nate. That's just always something I kind of look back on and think it's cool. But I think those are foundational pieces and elements of our brand that helped us get to where we are in our career.
For sure. And, we've been very fortunate to work with a lot of these athletes and just build relationships with them over the years. And it's cool, man. It's something that, you and I don't really talk about. We don't really showcase too much, even on the DISHIN side of things. And, but it's fun, man. But to kind of move on too, we gotta do a show and tell. And what do we got? I have nothing to show. I have a Fanatics shirt I could show you guys.
Yeah, you can show that if you want to.
Yeah. We'll save it for the next episode. It's buried in my suitcase right now, and I actually just got word that I'm moving hotels apparently, or our whole crew. So, yeah, I gotta leave my bag packed because we gotta skedaddle out of here. But yeah, let's take a look at this. What do we got for show and tell today?
the color bubble of the week. Drum roll, please. We got the Haffy. We got the Haffy Chrome visor. This is going to be available on the color bubbles. Again, color bubbles launching this summer. It's going to be different bubbles available. We're going to have the chrome. We're going to have the stealth. We're going to have visor overlays for your existing bubbles. We're also going to have the Haffy available too. So I don't think we showed this one yet. First time on here.
Yeah.
Again, we set a new color bubble every week. This one is really sick. It's really popular. So Cayden and Zeev thought this one was really dope. Cayden threw this one on also right away, and maybe Tony can flash the one of Cayden flashing the chrome bubble from last week. That was sick. But yeah, this one's fire. It's got the reflective. It's got the same type of visibility as the chrome one does, and again, a really sick product for guys that maybe don't want to wear a bubble, guys that wear half visors, and this is going to be available soon, starting this summer.
Nice, and it looks fire with the Nike bucket on there too. If you want to throw it on, yeah, I mean, you might lose me in the headphones here. Well, Matt's throwing that on too. Colored bubbles, man. Anything you want on the bubble. Look, wow, that you look like a rock star with that on. Oh man, I don't know if you can hear me. The headphones I don't know if you could hear me or not, but I was just trying to do a little ad read for colored bubbles, but yeah, dude, that looks sick. Hell yeah. With the Nike, we got Nike has to come back to hockey. That's what we need.
I can't tilt too much, but
yeah. Didn't Swish wear that when they were in town?
Yeah, he did. Swish wore this for the Hockey Night Scottsdale show.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, dude, looking pretty fire, man. Looking good.
Let's go.
But yeah, right, show and tell of the week, colored bubbles, the Haffy. Let's go. But yeah, that's kind of all I have. But before we log off, this was our first remote podcast recording. So hopefully this went well. Hopefully, Tony, this isn't too much of an editing process for you. I know that we're pretty new at this, so our setups are a little awkward, but we're just trying to stay super consistent. But before we get off here, we got a couple reminders. Number one, the SkateSkins Customizer is now live. You can now customize your skate skins on SkateSkinsCustomizer.com. And you can add your logo. You could add different colors to the skate skins. You could do whatever you want to do. You can add your number. All on that website, SkateSkinsCustomizer.com. Check it out if you want custom skate skins.
Yep. And the Bubble Hockey Tournament, again, July 13th. Saturday, July 13th, the Bubble Hockey Tournament presented by DISHIN, Super Chexx, and Smolder Society. Tickets are going to be available very soon. Probably by the time that this episode comes out, tickets will be available. So if you want to be involved in that tournament, you want to play, again, this is our first annual. Tickets are going to sell out very quickly, we're assuming. So run over to justdishin.com. We're going to have all the tickets available there. Again, we're capping it, so if you want to get in. The Super Chexx bubble hockey community is very serious when it comes to this sport, so expecting this to be a really dope event. We're going to have some great stuff going on throughout the entire day. Smolder Society is going to be the perfect venue for this. We're also releasing two beers that day, so going to be really sick, and we've done a lot of work behind the scenes to help bring this to life. So thank you to all the sponsors up until this point. And if you want to be involved as a sponsor, please reach out to us. We have a lot of unique opportunities right now, creatively, what we can do. So, looking forward to that. Saturday, July 13th.
Let's go. DISHIN Podcast, the first remote podcast recording. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you on the next one.